All right, it is 7:01. We'll call the November 25th, 2024 Select Board meeting to order. Kevin, did you have an amendment to the agenda?
I did. I was going to request we talk about the ending early a little on Wednesday, giving staff a little time to prep for their Thanksgiving. So you wouldn't mind
Okay,
at least having the conversation.
all right. I did remember seeing something.
Town office hours for Thanksgiving.
So
Can I-
that-
Can I ask for something to be added total spur of the moment?
all right, hold on, amendments, first off, I guess new business.
Yeah.
The Thanksgiving hours.
Thanksgiving week.
Wait.
Please don't work on Thanksgiving. Nobody, other than making.
That's a lot of work.
7.5
I
hours.
hate to tell you, it's a lot of work.
I know, I'm gonna be doing it myself.
Okay, and Ben, what did you?
Well, it just, there was a discussion at the planning board meeting about Chromebooks. I don't know if Michael passed that on to you, and it's Black Friday deals. And so, we could have a little tiny discussion about purchasing Chromebooks.
Okay.
Is that all right?
It's your call.
Sure. Let's talk about it, yeah, books. Okay. So that'll be B. All right, let's see, minutes to previous meetings. I guess let's just start right off. Do I have a motion to accept the October 15th, 2024 meeting minutes?
October 15th.
So
October 15th, right? So moved by Tor, seconded by Rufus. Does anybody have any comments, corrections? Had to dig back into my memory to remember.
Yeah, sorry about that. The reason
no-
you have three has.
No problem.
To do with our election cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Staff.
And if no comments or anything, then all in favor? Right, passes 5-0. Same October 28th, 2024, to have a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Rufus, seconded by Tom. Anybody have any corrections or comments on those? I didn't either, so all in favor? All right, 5-0. And November, I could have done the without objection, but we'll pound our way through it. November 12th, 2024 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to accept those?
Yep.
By Ben, seconded by Tom. Anyone have any comments, corrections on those? Nope, then all in favor? All right, it passes 5-0. Do we have any public comments on items not on the agenda tonight? Nope. All right, then we'll move on to unfinished business. The community action grant.
Oh.
What did I skip?
Thanksgiving hours, we're gonna make that a.
Oh, I'm gonna put it under new business.
Oh, unfinished business.
Yeah, I'll do it under a new business. Okay, 5A community action grant. Did you want to give us an update on that, Kevin?
Yeah, so I wrote a lot of stuff in there.
Yes.
And it was very late at night and it's kind of rambling, but I'll just give you the short of it. We're kind of at this point where we either just go forward with a grant that says we'll use or to chase down money to put solar on the roof. The other option is, in an effort to try to get a 30% rebate and get the material ordered now and hopefully save money if things go towards higher costs because of tariffs, if tariffs happen. Don't know, can't predict the future, but it's a recommendation. At your last meeting was a motion to put an article, a warrant article, and so that's in 5C. There's a warrant article item in there. More of this is the conversation of, are you okay with us chasing down battery backup and recognizing, yes, mini splits do consume a lot of power and would deplete those pretty quickly, but we do have a boiler here, and in a wintertime storm event, it would keep the lights on and the boiler going. This room is heated either from the boiler and or the mini splits. So we still believe that we can probably accommodate our electricity needs aside from the mini splits in the case of a power outage, and then be able to confirm that this is always a heating and cooling center, this space is. So that's our staff met, discussed this, figured about $65,000 would be the ask as part of the grant. Now, if at town meeting, special town meeting, it doesn't go that way, we have written already the language to put the solar panels, so. Just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any, I included a list of other action items that could potentially be done. And that was from early April timeframe when we kind of did our own self-analysis. Figured out what we're doing, what we're in progress of, what we haven't yet prioritized. It just kind of gives you a list of the things that we could be focusing that grant money towards.
If we pay for the solar, this would be the option.
If we pay for if the town, special town meeting authorizes the use of the 65. From right now, I'm saying unassigned, but we'll have that conversation later, because it was, of course, the thing I was trying to finish at about midnight on Friday night, realizing, oh, wait, we're kind of tight on our unassigned fund balance, but I do have good news and I'll save it for later.
Okay,
I think as long as voters get to approve it, I see nothing wrong with it. I think it's a good investment.
Approve what now?
Approve our use of the undesignated balance to put solar panels on the roof.
Yeah, okay.
and then use the grant.
And then
for-
use the grant for batteries. I think that's a wise investment for the town. That's all I have to say.
Any questions? We have somebody who knows a little bit about it here.
No, I mean,
Bounce some questions off if we need to.
I think it's good to go forward with the solar plan. I mean, grand or no grand, I think, we've been talking about it for so long. We just. Let's do it, Tariff or no tariffs. Who knows about that either? But
But to go ahead with us paying for it. For the solar and then going with the grant
have
other stuff.
have ask the town to move the money over from undesignated funds to fund solar.
Yeah, and my intent really
Yeah.
is, with this piece, is to say, when we go to town, special town meeting. I'm going to be advocating that we're using the grant to then now make this a community. Heating and cooling center by having battery backup for the other components of it. We couldn't do it with a generator. I did inquire about that. They will not fund projects that involve fossil fuel systems. Now, if that system we install helps keep the fossil fuel thing running in an event, that's a different thing. So. I just want to be able to go on the December 10th and say publicly that, our intent is to, if the community supports the solar panels in this round. Then we're gonna go forward with the battery backup as part of our grant.
The one thing I just wanna clarify so we do have 1.9 something million in undesignated fund balance. We do. But we also have a policy of funding. Funding of 3 months, so. It's in essence, we really only have $650,000, that's kind of up for. This, this discretionary. Spending, you might say.
I'll get into that. Can we get into that? later
Yeah.
on the agenda? But yeah, there are some tweaks to this that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
So the only thing I would just say is going on what Rob Nelson was telling us last meeting, if both these things come to pass the way that you've got them here, then we would probably want to not go with a simple string inverter, but we'd want to go with like a solar or something else that's a combi inverter, because you can plug a generator into that if you need to.
Right.
So it would raise the cost of the solar project up a bit.
I think that's why the request is for up to 70,000 or 70,000, and if we don't use all that after, the intent would be to, if the community supports the idea of the town paying for its own solar project. Rather than through the grant process. We would do an closed RFP to those that ended up giving us quotes. We'd say to those three, the 4 vendors, the 3 gave us responses. So the 3 responses, here's what we're proposing to do, which is this.
Yeah.
It would ask for a quote, specific quote from those 3.
I mean, we wouldn't have to necessarily do it that way, but it'd be the easiest.
You're already got people on site, you're already doing the electrical changes, yes, it would make sense to do it if you can, if we can.
Yep.
If we're short, that's again where you come back to, do you use some of your contingency account to offset that?
Yeah, I would just point, I mean, I think you're kind of saying it, but I just would explicitly say.
Jeff's
that-
shaking his head, he can't hear
Oh,
us.
no, that's not,
No,
okay,
okay,
okay.
gotta make sure they could be heard, Jeff.
I would just say that when the town goes out with an RFP, assuming the voters approve the warrant article, that RFP be explicit about the type of system and care capabilities that the town needs, given the future intent. So that, just to make it clear that you have comparable quotes that are
Apples to
doing what
apples.
the town needs.
Thank you for that clarification.
Do they have anything else they want to ask?
I think conceptually, we're just approving the concept and where the money's coming from. I think the details, RFP details will be left up to the town manager to work out, so.
Yep.
That's all I want to add.
All right. Sorry, I'm trying to get all the way back to the. Yep. All right, let's see, unfinished business 5D. Downtown snow removal. Let's hop down to the. Sorry, I gotta get all the way through the other item. Okay. All right, we still need to nail this down.
We do. We've talked about this at the last two meetings, and I have invited, Seth
Yeah,
Hager.
good.
Hager. It's Ger. Karen tells me
Ger.
it's Ger.
It doesn't matter what you call it.
You don't care, but Karen does.
Oh,
She has put me in my place. Um, So we've talked about it at a couple meetings now. And what's in your item commentary sort of tells the story. Seth and his organization have already essentially purchased it. I informed him after our last meeting that we weren't interested in going forward with it. He tried to have that conversation with his vendor, and now he's got a piece of equipment that he has to figure out what to do with. And I can't solve it alone, and I see storms in the forecast and start to get a bit nervous, so I'm hoping we can resolve this tonight. If we need to add a warrant article to move more money, we should. I did do some digging into our current year budget. Down about $75,000, we could make a decision to put on the warrant to move around. I would suggest you do your 2% that you have in Article 31 of our annual town meeting. 2% equates to about 68,500. You can move around, but I wouldn't, since we have this opportunity to put it on the warrant and save that. Your use of moving things around for later in the year, because we're only about 5 months in now, so.
Yeah.
It would make sense for us to utilize this opportunity to put another warrant article on to address this, if that's what you want to do.
So where's the 75 coming from?
I made a list. Wouldn't believe it. Unfortunately, it would mean that I stay on as your CEO until the end of the fiscal year.
You can stop there.
Yeah.
You don't have to go any further.
It is your 50,000 in contingency is the big piece, but between that and 20,000, it's still sitting in the CEO account. That's all I have. The big pieces, and then there's a couple of 1,000 pieces I've told from like professional development. We're a little under on what I expect to spend for elections in June, so about 500 from there. 3,000 from the planning board consultant, which is at a 5,000, and was trying to keep some money in there in case there's specific projects we need help with. And then supplies. Well, another 1,000, so it's about $75,000 what I was able to find in my budget.
But we don't know what we need at this point anyway.
You don't, and that's why and then you know, once we get to the next piece, which is the actual warrant, I did do a memo that talks about our unassigned fund balance and where it stands. And there's a lot of the numbers in there. And I do have some tweaks to that because I had a question about $167,000 and I'm confused as to why we gave to the school. There's actually a voided check for $137,000 that wasn't recognized in our software, so. I'm only about $30,000 off of that, so there's another. We're real close to what our 3 months should be. I assume without having 2 years of audits not done, but based on my assumptions and my review of our financials. We're about 30,000 right now with all the money that's been put in the budget, we're about $30,000 below our 3 months. Of savings.
But first we have to hear what we're gonna do, because we can't even assign any kind of number to this,
No,
so,
I just want to give
Yeah.
that preface out there, so.
Yeah.
Right.
And that
So-
number, based on this year's budget is 1.3 something million. The 3 months. It's all expenses, including schools. So
It does include schools,
So
yes.
we're 5.
Our policy does. that.
5.6 million times 0.25. Yeah, 0.25 gives us 1.3 something.
Tour math versus Kevin math. I just pulled all the exact
Yeah,
numbers
yeah.
from it, so.
Yeah, so. So you're saying we're somewhere right around that margin.
We should, yeah, we should be. It's in agenda item 5C.
we'll get to it.
Okay.
All right, but first, Seth,
1.9 is 1.934 is where we should be based on this year's group budget.
So before we talk about snow. Can we talk about something good?
Yes.
We're paving.
oh,
Wait,
Canyon Hill
it's-
looks great, I drove over it unpaved and paved, and it's much better now, I
You
like
like
it,
it?
thank you.
We're struggling trying to find a striper because everybody's cleaned out for the season. I've got East Pond Road that we're trying to do for the DOT and we need to get one up there too. So hope still out that we can find a striper because I'd like to get a yellow center line down there, at least through the S corners, you know?
Yeah.
But Kavanaugh's all done, shoulders are on, Academy Hill is done. We got the earthwork all done today and the brush clearing on Hillcrest. Base pavement will be going in tomorrow. It looks like it's gonna be kind of crappy and we've got to go get East Pond Road tied up on Wednesday. But first part of next week, we'll get the surface on and then that will be wrapped up for the winter, so that'll be good. Started stacking some sand up today. We already had the sand in, but I just made it into a cone to keep it a little bit drier and cleaned up a little bit. Got a little bit more cleaning up to do up on the sand salt shed and we'll start getting some salt in. So
The shoulders look nice on Academy Hill too,
Yeah, not bad.
they look good.
Yeah, I mean, it just helps out a little bit.
Yeah.
We just waited for that one to try to do it all at once, which I hope taxpayers, I can appreciate the economy of doing it efficient, you know, doing that a little bit better. So instead of bringing in just for 1,000, we were able to come in for 2,000 feet, get it all done, plus Kavanaugh. I know that there's one person on the end of Kavanaugh that's extremely happy. They've been waiting forever, so that's good. We'll take the wins when we can get them, but yeah, come along nicely on some of those things, trying to get some things tied up, so. We'll be in good shape for the spring. Couple other projects coming. Kevin's update on the capitals, spot on as per normal. He's pretty good with that, so. A couple things we'll tackle this winter and then in the spring we'll have a couple of roundup things to do, but we're in good shape. We're right there where we need to be.
Good, excellent, excellent.
The snow plowing stuff is just a challenge, guys. I mean, I don't know, you know, obviously, I wanna be part of a solution. This isn't here to be adversarial. I didn't try to put you guys in a hard spot. When I left last week, or sorry, I don't.
2 meetings.
I'm even, yeah, 2 meetings ago, I apologize, whatever, 2 weeks ago, so. You know, we are on time crunch, you know, this is hard when we start doing things this year because we have very limited amount of space to be able to move. When we wanna pivot, it's just, this is a hard time of year. So you roll a couple factors in that I had no control over. It actually showed up early as opposed to being late, which is great on one hand, but it's early. And when I called and told this guy, look, you know, they decided not to do it now, I mean, he was like. I won't even get into it, not happy.
Okay.
And I just said, fine, so we financed it, it's coming, one way or another, either I'm gonna sit on it, take a loss, which. If that's my risk, then that's my risk, but, you know, in full disclosure, we're trying to help you solve your problem, not necessarily our problem. And I want to be part of that solution. We've got to figure out what we're gonna do because we're getting close to needing to have an answer to this. I was able to talk to the DOT for Kevin. That other area that we wanted to do what we wanted to do is good. He was all right with it. This is not meant to sway your decision one bit. I'm just trying to relay the facts to you. When I talked to him, told him what we were gonna be doing for a scope, he specifically asked me if we were gonna blow it. He didn't want us to have any type of motorized equipment up over the rail. So I said, no, we're gonna be blowing, rather that's by some sort of skid steer approach, which I have no idea how we'd tackle that like that, or by a big blower. He's got a couple other municipalities that do something similar in a different location, but similar approach. So he's like, yep, nope, familiar with that, no problem. I told him that the sidewalk maintenance would be no different than we've been doing for a generation, decades. He was good with that, and he just said as long as we cast it, but we had some questions earlier about trying to take the loader and kind of go up over that approach and kind of push it off, and he's like, no. I won't allow that to happen, so if we're gonna use that spot in some means, we're going to have to blow it, that's just the way that it is. But other than that, he was good with other. Like there was a drain manhole he was concerned about, good with that, he was, means and methods he was fine with, and ultimately they signed off on it and then went to the next step, so. So that's good, now we just gotta figure out how we're going to tackle this.
The last piece was that from the DOT, okay to use the site based on the DEP's application. That application went in on Thursday night, because I got the okay from DOT on Thursday late afternoon. I stayed and made sure that got sent out. I did get an email from DEP today. They were requesting that we send notice via certified mail, even though the application general permit doesn't require it. I pushed back and I said, I would like to request that we get a waiver, at least for this year, because of how close we are to severe storm events. So I'm still hopeful they'll okay it, but it's still at least 10 more days out.
I think, Seth, just our last meeting, I think the problem was we don't understand the numbers.
Sure.
I mean, it's a lot, but we're looking at more than doubling our downtown snow removal budget because of this. So I think we were just all very confused by how expensive it seems and what's the payoff, right? Oh, is Newcastle paying for this whole thing in 5 years? Are we paying for the whole thing in 10 years? Are we not paying for the whole thing because you're gonna use it elsewhere? Is it ours? Just these are all questions that, because it was so quick when you were here a month ago, 4 weeks ago, we didn't have time to digest it. And after thinking about it and digesting it, we're all like, oh my God, there's so much money. So I think those are some of the questions we had. There was maybe some more, but
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, no,
so
I
we just,
mean, you wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't question things.
Right.
Right? I mean, you have a responsibility to your constituents to find out what's the best, most economic, reasonable solution to this. And what I can tell you is that it's hard for me to price this too, because I've never done anything like this before. So what I did is I reached out to the vendor who put me in contact with 3 other contractors in the southern part of the state in New Hampshire who use this. In particular, they use it like one of them had a municipal contract but they were just loading trucks. One of them was a FedEx facility where they shipping and receiving, where they use it in parking lot, put in a windrow because they had some tight space constraints. And the other guy was just a general purpose snow removal contractor that just had it as a resource to be able to pull whenever he wanted. And they gave me what their average rates were, and that's how I based these numbers off of, because I have never had to price anything like this. The answer to your financing question is yes, you are. No different than when a snowplow contractor goes out and gets a 5-year snowplow deal to plow a road, and I go out and buy a new truck. You're financing that purchase in that contract. That's the way it works, because I need that tool to be able to accomplish that job. No different than a carpenter going out buying a special job, a special thing, because he's got a special type of woodworking thing that he doesn't have that router bit and he needs to go get that. It's the same thing. We have been able to absorb the cost of the removal over history because the mechanism in which we've been doing the removal is such that we could spread that cost out. And I can use that piece of equipment in other means and methods. I can't with this. It's 100% specialized. I can't go move dirt with it in the springtime. It is isolated to just winter snow removal.
Mhm.
So whenever you get to a specialized item, the cost becomes significant. And I don't know how to tell you that any differently. It is what it is. So that's why I gave you the options, because it's kind of like spread this out over a contract extension, buy it all up front right now, or a little bit of combination of both. And that's what my approach was, to try to give you kind of a ability to pick and choose what risk you wanted to assume compared to what risk the contractor wanted to assume. Because at the end of the day, the contract dollar is all about risk. If I'm gonna assume all the risk, the contract value is gonna be higher. If you wanna assume some of that risk, the contract rate is going to be lower. No different than with salt. You guys chose to buy your own salt. We absorbed 2 years worth of salt increases without impacting your snowplow contract, because you assumed that risk and assumed that cost and took it off my burden, so there's nothing for me to pass on to you. This is very, very similar, with the exception that I don't have any other place that I can go use this. Is there a possibility that maybe I could find a big parking lot? Like I said, the Y sometimes might use it if the snow comes off, but they're not gonna, and I wouldn't want to go out and buy a piece of equipment to this magnitude for a one-off chance that maybe I could use it once or twice a year to assist on something that I really don't need it. I have to have this. We have to have some type of mechanism, and I'm just telling you, a snowblower on a skid steer is good for sidewalks. But if the snowblower on a skid steer was good for what we're trying to do, then every other municipality around here would be doing it. It's not the right tool for the job. Now, either you take the risk and you say, yep, let's use it and see what happens, and if it comes out more, great, egg on me. Or, in my opinion, this is a more financially sound decision, because over the course of time, it's gonna cost you less. We don't have to do any alterations to the snow dump site. If this doesn't work out next year and you don't wanna move the hydrant and this works out fine, good. Let it run. Let this be the course. You've already made the initial investment and we're into it. If it doesn't and it doesn't work out, then I still have those operating costs for this year that's associated with these pricing that I gave you. And I guess the rest of the risk is on me. I'll have to unload it someplace if you find a different spot to do that. But this year I have a substantial amount of risk and I have a substantial amount of cost that's associated, and that's what's reflected in the pricing here. I know that it's hard because it's unknown to all of us, including myself.
Mhm.
And I get that. And I wish that I could say, hey, look, we can rent one of these, or we can use one for a couple of weeks, and if it doesn't work out, we can pivot and do something different. But guys, we're coming into December. Like, we are so lucky that we haven't needed this right now, and it's just a matter of time at this point.
It's not gonna put form in place.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What's the life expectancy of that piece of equipment?
10 years.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
that's- yeah,
I think that's
ballpark.
fair.
Yeah.
I mean, Rufus, if we get, I don't have a crystal ball. You guys are just talking about the solar thing, right? And being able to predict the future. If climate change, which, arguably is definitely a thing, and it continues to go, and this use continues to diminish, then I think you could reasonably say even longer than that.
Sure.
With decent reliability. If we go back to having normal winters where we're averaging 60, 70, 80 inches of snow a year, I mean, I think that 10 years is probably pushing it. I mean, I've got a snowplow truck right now that's coming up on 10 years, and I'm getting ready it's time for it to go.
Yeah.
Cause it's starting to cost more money than it's worth, just by the nature of use, not because it's been beat on per se, but I mean, stuff rots, I mean, so.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is we're essentially, aerating salt through it, so
100%.
it's obviously it's gonna degrade, and yeah, a 10-year lifespan, it's not a 5-year lifespan, so that. Just
I-
curious sort of what the,
I gave you the example last time I was here, Holton had one that was 20 years old, they're looking for about 65 grand for it. And in the word, that's not what the vendor would be, that's what the town has asked for it, what they get for it, probably two different things.
sure,
But what the vendor said is, I mean, yeah, you could go do it, but you're gonna spend some time working on it.
Yeah.
And I said, that's my risk, right? If I'm trying to hustle to do things, I'm gonna add that into the cost of this because we don't wanna be working on this stuff all the time.
Can you walk through, you and I talked about this, but I think the board would benefit from hearing it. This piece of equipment runs on its own diesel engine in front of and attached to a front loader.
Right.
So the front loader isn't providing the power to run the system, it runs itself. But that front loader is needed to move this piece of equipment around and essentially eat into the snowbank that it's trying to move.
100%.
And so this is an addition, those costs that you saw in his email include that additional front loader being essentially earmarked for this use. So right now, the contract, let's assume we were still pushing the snow into the river on the Damascotta side. You use a front loader.
Mhm.
You use skid steers to move snow into the road, or what
Yeah.
what is your operation? Can you
Yeah.
walk us through it?
Yeah, sure. So skid steers work from outside in, push everything to the middle, the front loader grabs it and discharges it. Obviously, when we're in areas such as like on the bridge, we try to go direct discharge over the top of just the sidewalk portion. But we don't use the skid steers on the bridge to blow the main volume of snow in the middle out over just the sidewalk. So what happens right now is we try to, like I said, we go outside in, sidewalks go into the middle, street goes into the middle, try to get into a windrow, take that whole windrow down to the discharge point and push it all over the loader. So I don't have like skid steer earmarked for any type of discharge, it's just there for sidewalks. Now what we're doing is we're still doing the same exact process, except for we're moving the snow to a new spot. And then we're getting this one particular piece of equipment to grab that and push it up over the rail. And to Kevin's point, exactly, a skid steer runs the hydraulics on the machine that power the machine, also power the attachment. So when you're running into something that's big like this, you're only limited to what the machine can do. In this particular case, the loader is isolated. The loader is just a mechanism to move this thing around. The snow blower is completely 100% self-contained, and it eats the pile under its own power outside of what the loader can do. It's not even physically even attached to the machine. The operation is Bluetooth. It's just the pins that hold it together. Other than that, it's own fuel tank, own motor, own everything. It's completely separate. It's just the wagon is just the loader.
So the cost is, you still have a loader operator moving to the snow to the same spot. You still have those skid steers putting snow into the area and all. So you still have the same crew. This cost means that we have another driver, another loader with this piece of equipment that has a huge cost upfront.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that's why those numbers are so high. It's not just paying for this piece of equipment, it's also paying for the time on that loader, person on that loader.
The cost. Just trying to get my head around the numbers, which is not easy. The cost of the equipment, are we looking at that getting 100% paid for in 5 years? 10 years, the lifespan of it? How are we looking at that?
Basically, I stretched it out over a contract extension to make it that much more attainable.
5 years?
So we're 24 to 30. So it's basically you're,
This year and 5 more?
yeah, right, exactly, because we have,
6 years.
because we have an extension for this and then 5 years, so technically it's 6, yes.
So conceivably our price would go down in year 7 because the equipment's paid for. I'm just trying to get the whole picture.
Yes, I mean conceivably, 100% I would agree with you. I would expect to see a reduction, yes, because now we own it, right?
Right,
And now we have some true hard numbers as well to be able to figure out how many hours we'll put on, what's the maintenance like, where are we gonna be with this, right? The only thing that I'm not suggesting that it's going to go up, but the only thing I will say is as this goes down, inflation and other things rise. So the degree that they offset, I'm not sure. But yes, essentially the purchase is over at that point in time. There's nothing else to buy. We physically have it. So my exposure at that point is significantly less. I don't have a banknote to support it.
and if somebody else said, Seth, I have a problem and this piece of equipment will solve their problem as well. If Newcastle is the one paying for it, the answer would be no. Newcastle is going to share this now with somebody else. I'm just hypothetical. Then we would have to talk about how the fees are.
I would agree with you 100%, but in full honesty, no, because we own it.
What do you mean we own it?
We own it, right?
Right, but we've paid for it. But we're paying for it.
You're paying for the right to use it. You don't physically own it, otherwise you buy it and keep it, and then it only stays right here in Newcastle. But if a carpenter or like I said, somebody else buys a pickup truck for one particular use, they finished out that job. You as a consumer don't get to keep that pickup truck, it goes and is used for other things as well.
I would hope I wouldn't have to be buying a whole pickup truck for a.
I'm using it as an analogy, for
I
example.
know, but
Our
this is,
skid steers, for example, you don't get to keep those and we only say
No.
they're only used, right? But our ownership costs are definitely built into every time we bid on that, having that piece of equipment be part of it. You paid, in full disclosure, you have paid 100% of the cost of a plow truck before. That is not exclusive just to you. I use it in the summer for other things and we do other things with it. So if somebody else wants to do that and I've taken care of your needs, then absolutely I would. I don't see that being the case. I really
no,
don't.
but I'm just trying to be responsible with the money here.
I
It's a lot of money.
I-
I wanna make sure that we are all, trying to.
I understand. I completely get it. And I would, as a taxpayer, I would be upset if you weren't doing your job.
And my assumption too is that some of that cost is the ongoing maintenance or.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
not
we-
necessarily absorbing that right this minute.
So, I mean, here's a perfect example of this. We just had to get our Cummins IT reissued.
You're
This,
what?
this blower has a Cummins diesel motor on it. It is 110% electronic, right? It's all run off of a web-based system. Okay, that system to buy was about $3,500, and then we've got to pay a $1,500 a year use fee for 2 users, and then if I want to go to 4 users, because 2 mechanics need to have it more than that, I gotta pay more, right? So where does that figure into this? And I know for a fact that at some point in time, that motor is gonna stop working because of a def issue. I know for a fact. Every truck that we have does it, every other piece of equipment we have. So that's the type of stuff that is an unknown cost that I have to account for. I know it. I've been doing it long enough that if I don't, I'm doing my business a disservice. Because I'm being blind about it.
Well, I didn't give you a solution. Sorry.
So what's the, can you review your recommendations or what you're proposing? So in terms of.
Yeah.
Bottom line, that brass tacks.
This is going back to the email from
Last
2
meeting.
meetings ago.
October 31st?
No, the 12th.
October 28th.
Yeah,
11/12 was when we got the email with all the
It was
breakdowns.
11/12.
Oh, it was 11/12.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's in the packet for
Gotcha.
11/12.
And I just gave you the most recent one about
Yep.
going the skid steer route, which
Yep.
is,
Yep.
I don't think is our best bet.
so your contract one lump sum contract option basically passes 100% of the risk to me. Seth, I don't care how much snow you come, I wanna wake up at 7 o'clock and wanna walk downtown and not have any snow, period. Nothing comes back to the town. 148.5, I own it all. And this is down and dirty and super simple, so please, if you have questions. Option 2 is an hourly rate, okay? The hourly rate puts some of the risk on you. I have to own it, so my hourly rate is going to be absorbently high. But you guys are only locked in for every hour that you use, you pay for.
Mhm.
Okay, and those rates are given to the, so you have an a la carte option if you wanna spend that. But just know that if we get into a scenario where we're starting to use that thing, those hourly rates are expensive because again, I am consuming a lot of the risk for potential no use. I could sit on that thing forever. Oh, let's just say it's sunny and 70 all winter. Let's just say.
I'm thinking.
But if not, that's an hourly rate, which is typically what I give you guys all the time for an option to select from. And then option number 3 is a blended rate. So that's the less expensive of all the other options. It's only $115.5. I consume the majority of, or half, I'll say half of theirs, not the majority, half, but I'm giving you 20 hours a month. That's gonna be available to you for 20 hours a month, which I think is going to be good. I'm not trying to set you up for failure here. I'm giving you a decent amount of time to try to work with it here. And then up to that 20 hours a month, you're only set to that. But if we go over, if we have a snowstorm or a month where we get a ton of snow and we put 60 hours on that thing, there's a circuit breaker where, okay, there's a little bit of extra. That's what option 3 is. It's kind of a blended. The
And again, that's.
and then I
for-
provided you some additional research on the bottom of where I reached out to those other companies and put what they were running for their stuff. And then I gave you a contract extension basically to help. Just so Kevin could have an idea, money wise, and you guys, so that you knew what the extended amount would be and what we'd be looking at. I took some liberties, like just a 3% on the contract, you know. Normal, typical, there isn't anything out of the gate there, but I wanted you to be able to appreciate the total cost approach of this, and that's what the box is with the options with the contract extension, so that you knew what you were getting into. It wasn't an unknown.
And remember that those fees are for a loader that's dedicated to picking up this piece of equipment and moving it around, and the guy driving that piece of equipment.
Right.
That's what that's for. It's essentially 3 costs.
So, and then you'll see some other incidental stuff that I talk about in here, and that's just because our location has changed. We had no extra salting that was needed in that parking lot because everything went overboard. This, we're using your parking stalls. So when we were all done, scraped, cleaned up, and we did our final salting, that was it. Now, I've got to salt all this stuff. We're gonna be driving back and forth and using that spot as a temporary dump site to then discharge over. So the use of that site changes, which directly affects how much salt we use in that particular area or the application rate that we have to have in that area. So that's why I put some of these other intricacies in here, because under a normal year where our old site was, we didn't have to do that. I didn't have to worry about really getting up close to the guardrails and feeding that out because there wasn't any snow there. Now I'm gonna be packing that into those areas to use that as a temporary storage spot. So the scope of the work has changed dramatically in the discharge portion, not the gathering portion. Not the skid steers on the sidewalk blowing it into the street, but the discharge of where we are putting it in physically into the river has changed a lot. And that's what's representative of the cost.
So I guess I'm confused. What was the salt? What, why we have additional costs for salt?
So right now, we salt it once, right? We scrape everything and we clean that whole area up and we salt it once,
Okay,
okay? Now, I'm going to do all of the areas and then wait. Because I've got extra work to do in an area that normally would have been all picked up and cleaned up under the original means and methods.
just, you're talking about the couple of parking spaces
Well, that and the sidewalk. I mean, this, you gotta remember
at the
that
bridge.
when you see this pile, if we get a decent snowstorm, 6, 8, 12 inches, just a normal snowstorm. Wait till you see the pile. You're gonna be astonished, I think.
We aren't gonna see the pile. You guys get rid of it before any of us
No,
ever
that's-
venture out into the,
You'll
we
take
don't go out.
photos, right?
No, I
You
will
can
put-
send us pictures. Send pictures.
So that pile will probably be in those parking spots, probably loader height. And packed into the sidewalks. One of the questions that DOT had for me, what are you gonna do about pedestrian access on the sidewalk while that stuff is there until you get a chance to blow it in at the end of the storm or whatever? And the reason that he was okay with it is because we have an alternate sidewalk on the other side that I'd say 85% of the people really use most of the time.
What's anybody doing out in the middle of a snowstorm?
Oh, what do you mean? Ski journeying, down or cross country skiing in the middle of the road, riding a
Oh,
bicycle,
geez.
motorcycle? I mean, pick.
Oh my God.
Walking dog.
I've seen it.
I mean, when the moose trots through,
Snowboard with a
I'll
Toro?
call you when the moose trots through, cause he comes across probably twice a year.
Oh, no.
But so we have a means for pedestrians to get through on the other side, which he was great with, because this pile is going to consume that space.
But the salt, then you're just saying you,
Once you clean that up.
I gotta
Yeah,
salt
so-
it,
that,
yes.
the area where there was extra snow.
correct.
So it's not gonna use much. It's not gonna use a lot of salt. It's just it's hitting that little area.
I am going to call you when it snows 6 inches, turns to rain, and then the temperature drops, and you say, how many times have you salted that? And what happens when you start to draw the frost out of the grain? You'd be surprised how much salt we go through downtown.
No, I understand the downtown. You always salt the downtown.
Right.
But it's just, I'm just trying to figure out how the extra salting happens with this plan.
Because.
I'm
that-
I'm not getting it, I guess.
No, that area, instead of it being cleaned in our normal process and being cleaned and being able to apply once at the end, or. That machine is going to be backing back and forth, discharging that snow. We are going to end up having to salt that area more than we will the parking stall across the street, because as the mechanism of which we're storing it and stockpiling it there is not gonna allow it to be as clean as it would be if we were doing it in the process. So we're gonna have to apply more product at the end to get the same result as normally, where we would just be pushing it off in a dirt parking lot. This is gonna be on a paved parking stall.
Okay.
And while it sits there, it can also accumulate ice by putting down more salt, and that piece of equipment is moving around in a way
Get
that.
it down.
And also
Yes.
just, it's not easy or clean, so you end up pushing a little bit of snow in back of the road, and you just got a larger area to now install. Second, third, fourth time through.
The reality is the snowball is gonna come through on the loader, in theory, will come through and get everything on the street. There's still gonna be stuff on the sidewalks. Now the sidewalk snowplow. Built for that, will come by and chip away and push that into the street so that the bigger one can pick it up and put it over the edge of the guardrail. And it's gonna be a give and take, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And normally, we don't mess around in that little jet out there. You know, we don't shovel around much of that, but we are going to have to try to keep a little bit on top of that, just because if the distance between the rail and the sidewalk gets hard packed with snow and there's nothing for any water, if and when it rains and whatnot, if any water tries to get through that area, it won't, because it's gonna seal it up. So we're gonna wanna kind of keep that open and free so that when it melts and stuff like that, we don't have stuff running back across the sidewalk. And anytime we have any moisture, it's got a place for it to go.
So is in option 3 is the 20 hours a month. An average in aggregate, so like you got 180 hours for the 9 months. And not like in January, you're gonna hammer maybe to 20.
He says it resets to 0 at the first of each month.
And the reason for that is because most of the rentals that you have, if you go out and you rent something right now, you don't get a total of that. It's on a monthly basis, all right? I can. Look, when we're trying to come up with this mechanism and the way to do it. I guess I'm gonna have to put this back on you. You're going to have to trust me. I don't anticipate that you're going to get a bill for over 20 hours a month. And to Tor's point, if I'm 4 hours over and we didn't use anything in November, it's going to be pretty hard pressed for me to come and say, Kevin, I need an extra $2,000 because we're 4 hours over, all right? But I have to have some sort of mechanism in here, because if we end up having a real shit year and I end up putting 260 hours on this thing and I'm like replacing augers and everything, what do I, where do I go? How do I fund that mechanism in order to be able to repair? I don't know. I have no idea what the maintenance cost is gonna be for this for a year. I don't know if I've gotta go through and do all the bearings. This is brand new to me as well.
Hate stuff like this. Ben, you've been very quiet.
Uh-huh.
You too, Tom. You need questions?
So. We're at the last year of the contract, right? Is that where we're at right now?
Yes, this is the final year of the
Final
5-year
year.
contract.
I guess what, alright, so here's my perspective, just conceptually. We received a curveball this year because nobody expected to lose a discharge location. So it's not fair for the contractor to suck that up because of that unforeseen condition. Likewise, and I don't think Seth's opposing this, but I don't feel it's fair for the taxpayers of Newcastle to fund a piece of equipment completely. But without the contractor assuming some risk in that and the opportunity to use that for some other job, as we've kind of discussed. I guess I'm wondering what the impact is, or the implication or our thoughts on how we perceive this moving forward, because we do have we have to renew a contract starting next year. You know, most likely for 5 years. But we're 3 with an extension, let's say.
Or 5 with an opt-out, I guess.
But-
We put it, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess I am still a little concerned that we're hamstringing ourselves to a really sort of abrupt decision right now that is our only decision for the next 6 years. Can we rethink this, this summer? If, say, SEP can sell this for 50% value, next year.
And
There's
state
that.
of the art. Our team at Lincoln Hospital,
I know, it's boring.
What that was, so, I guess, if there's anything, I am a little bit more geared towards either option 3, pay basically the set price with, overage costs. To get us through this year. I feel like we're gonna have to pay, no matter what, we're gonna have to do something for this year. It's gonna cost some amount of money. Again, unforeseens always cost money, no matter what. One of you sets example carpenters, you run into rot in the corner of the house. Who knows? It's just gonna increase the project cost. We didn't know, but you know what? Next year, we're not gonna replace every corner of the house just because we had one corner this year. So I'd like to get us through this year, but I'd like to be open for discussion and adjustment next year without renewing the contract. In other words, I don't want to commit ourselves to 6 years of contract based on this one curveball. That's what I'm at.
I kind of see it the other way, actually. I mean, all things said and done, I kind of like to make a decision and that be the decision for the foreseeable future. I think the reality is that we've all racked our brains and been out to look at all the other options. And because of geography, there just aren't any. I mean, our only 2 real options are this and trucking it all to Jones Woods
Well, right this minute.
forever. I mean, I don't see something happening next summer, this coming summer or next year. A solution magically presenting itself where, oh, all of a sudden, we found this new site where it's right in downtown and we can all of a sudden just dump snow.
But there's a possibility, I don't know if it would work, but there's a possibility if the hydrant's moved in the sidewalk, as we've done, of dumping it right close to where it was dumped before. Because that's a DOT, well, we don't have a ruling from Peter on that yet, right?
I don't know the terminology. Or
The-
we'd be okay.
It should
I
be
don't
okay.
have specifics, but I'm pretty sure we'd be okay.
To
We
be
still would want DOT's blessing, but
Right.
again. They're already, but now that David's aware of what we're doing and they're right away on this side. I'm pretty sure that conversation with DOT to do it in long term on the other side with the movement. He might say, I don't want a loader going up and over that barrier that's right there.
yeah, well,
The abutment, so even if we were there, it would probably be that piece of equipment being used right there too. So that's not the process. I think the biggest challenges of this site that we're talking about is the potential impacts for. Anybody who is actually driving or trying to pass through that area, and when it's cleaned up, how much of a mess is still there. We haven't experienced this before, so I'm curious to see how this winter goes and spend some time here. See me and drive a truck, I'll go to my CDL when I'm working.
you come down and run a loader.
What I mean, I guess. The process is really or timing of a storm. Because it doesn't just snow at night.
Right. So we discussed this internally, I gotta be honest with you, a ton, and the reality is that we're probably going to try to set up a system. If. No matter which way you choose, it doesn't really much matter, we're gonna have to set up a system where that site actually gets taken care of probably twice, if not 3 times during a snowstorm. Because to Kevin's point, I can't have it coming out into the travel lane. I've only got that 9-10 feet worth of space to be able to stack. I don't want it to be so high that for cars coming in and out of the beauty place and the
The gift shop.
little shop right there, that it's hard for them to see around during the day. And it just doesn't bode well to leave that type of stuff, you know, where we're trying to keep the road clean and then constantly fight a pile there. If somebody's just over too far, it's a little bit, you know, so the reality is we're probably gonna end up blowing that discharge point off 2 or 3 times a snowstorm to keep it knocked down and to keep it workable so that we're not just really making a mess. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember any of this, but yeah, I mean, and I'm certainly probably date myself, but don't you remember when Damascus, when we used to pile it on Main Street and then remove it the next night? And we used to go in with backhoes and leave those piles there all day long. Does anybody remember all that?
Yeah.
Remember the
I didn't drive.
shitstorm that we used to have because cars would have to kind of go between the piles and then the police would get upset with us because people weren't, it's the same, we're kind of doing the same thing, except for the mechanism for us to discharge it is quicker and more efficient. I don't think that it's gonna be there. But to leave a pile there for the entire duration of the snowstorm until we get ready to clean it all up at the end is not like it is pushing it off into the river. But I think we're gonna have to do this more than once a snowstorm, I really do.
Well, what's it look like if you're, you know, it's the middle of the day? And you need to do a discharge,
Yep,
because the loader's gonna have to load it from a travel lane.
depending on how big the pile is. This is the advantage of doing it once a day, because the snow blower can take about 6.5, 7 feet. At one pass,
What?
Width or height?
height,
Both,
Height.
What?
Okay.
both.
yes,
Oh,
both,
wow.
yes, both,
Wow.
right. So you see what I'm saying? So basically, what would happen if it happened in the middle of the day? We'd bring one skid steer down, park it literally on the sidewalk so somebody couldn't walk through there on both sides. And I'd take that loader right down through that parking stall and put it all in the river in about 15-20 minutes, done. Opened up, clear. And then we repack it again and take another 4 or 5 hours and repack it again.
Okay, so I got another important question. What are we doing for safety? So if someone doesn't walk into the damn thing?
That's what I'm saying. We have to organize that by keeping the pedestrians off that. Ultimately, this is gonna be done at night, you know, where we have lesser. But I mean, we run skid steer and snow blower down there Monday through Friday all day long, and they can easily, just as easily get sucked into that as well. Comes down to operator safety, it comes down to doing traffic control, pedestrian control. Again, why the DOT asked, do we have an alternate means for pedestrians? And we do on the opposite side of the street. Yeah, this thing is, this is legit. I mean, this is how, you know, Boston, New York City, big airport, I mean, this is.
Boston, New York
This-
and Newcastle.
Airport, New York Airport.
I mean, you know, be more realistic, Augusta, Portland, Bangor, I mean, these are things that, you know.
I've seen Lewiston use one
Yeah.
of those they actually use it to load
Trucks,
trucks.
sure, same thing.
Saco has one.
Same exact thing. This, if we wanted to do that, we could run this down Main Street and load it right into a truck, same deal.
And
Except-
then we'd be trucking it.
And then you'd be right, exactly, so this way, we're just bypassing that and putting it directly one-stop shop into the river.
Before, when you were trucking it, you would just pull it up with your bucket.
Loader.
And dump the bucket in the back of the truck.
Correct,
We're ever in a position where we have to transport this piece of equipment, still be beneficial to that process. Probably a little more efficient that way than it is with the bucket.
100%, and quicker, yeah. Yeah, the biggest limitation when you get to that is the actual physical number of trucks, because that will outpace any amount of trucking that you can have. I mean, as fast as you can get a truck, it'll fill it. But this way, we're going direct discharge, so it doesn't really much matter how much snow, as long as we get to it. But I really envision seeing this being done a couple times a storm. I don't see it as at the end waiting till all that. I see the loader going around. In complete honesty, this is getting way off in the weeds, but I see the loader going all around, packing the thing, doing a loop around the downtown roads, clearing the roads all up, coming back out into downtown, making another swipe, taking his plow off, putting the blower on, going downtown, blowing over while the roads build back up, taking the blower off, putting the plow back on, and going around doing its stuff. I mean, it's just gonna be a continuous loop as part of the system, is how really it's going to work. The only difference is that it's just really big and this is what it's designed to do.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, in all honesty, just expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna go back to what I was saying, which is that. I see both sides of the argument, but I don't see a magic solution presenting itself. If there was
Short
one,
of
we'd know
Blackwell
about it.
opening up somewhere on Main Street.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, and I think if we're gonna present the solution, we should present something that's like, okay, guys. You know, we can't do what we were doing. This is the new thing that we're proposing and we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it for a while.
So you realize you just took public works discussion off the table.
Well, hold on,
Yeah,
No, I'm sorry.
back up.
yeah.
This is a question to you, Seth, and what if we line this as part of this process? If Hager Enterprises is open to the idea of we forego the contract we have, revise it based on maybe that modified one, the option 3.
Yep.
And we do this year, the next 2 years beyond that, with the, or, and then a 5-year contract starting this year. With that 2-year termination, if our efforts to look at public works doesn't pan out, we keep going with the 5 years. If it does, we talk about a 2-year order. We start our program in 5 years from now, but at least then the snowplow contract and the downtown contract are lined up time-wise.
Well, and if this is if this piece of equipment has a 10-year lifespan, and in 5 years, we decide to. We've figured out how to do that, a public works department is the way we're gonna go, then
Option to buy.
option to buy.
Sure.
Cause all of a sudden, you're probably not gonna need it.
I'm going to Florida, man.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't, I think,
I believe that when I see it.
Yeah.
I think we've been put in a position, both. Our snowplow contractor and the town. Through no fault of anybody's. That lives in this town.
Well,
We've been put in a position, so. We've got a bunch of options, none of which are good. And this is. The best of the not good options. That's kind of the way I see it, and I think that sharing the risk with the contractor is the most equitable way to go about it. Because he's figured out a solution for us. You know, it's literally this or trucking.
Yeah.
Those are our only options. And this seems to the contractor the more palatable option. Which I don't do snow removal, I don't know, but if somebody that's been in the business for 25 years says this is the better of the two options, I guess we have to trust him that it's better of the two options.
I would be real interested to see the conversation in 6 months when we sit down and you, after you see it and be like.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand, I get that it's a big change. And I'm honestly not trying to sell you on something that costs more money because. Quite frankly, I'd rather go back, it's way easier for us to go back to the way it was. This is gonna be a pain in the ass.
He's
You know.
been begging me to go through this conversation since the summer, so. That's partially on me for not trying to, we worked all September trying to find a solution.
When it's 3 o'clock in the morning, the chute on this thing packs full. And we're down there trying to dig this out, I'm gonna, it's gonna be like, what are we doing? Like, cause I'm sure it's gonna happen, so trust me, I don't want this any more than you guys, I would vote right now to go back to the old way and be done with it, but. We're not there, and all I can tell you is that we've done things for a long time without the right equipment, and then we've done things for time with the right equipment, and it's a huge difference. And I cannot just blindly say, hey, the guys are, this is gonna be great, this is gonna be awesome. Let's go down there with a skid steer and see if we can get through a 7-foot pile of snow. And they're gonna be like, are you kidding me? And I'm gonna, so this is my most palatable option to get you a decent service, to be able to affect the service reasonably, share some of the risk, but there is a cost associated with it.
we gotta figure out how to pay for it.
That's part C in your
Yep.
agenda here.
Do you have any more questions?
Why did we buy that parking lot when it was on the market? I guess that's the only real question.
That's like,
Let's
like,
cancel the property in Damascus.
Yeah,
assuming we're allowed in Nebraska across the bridge, but you know, there's that.
I'll go you one better. Why did the town vote to not take possession of the
Stone up site?
the quay behind the standard?
right.
Yeah,
Oh,
oh, yeah,
oh, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, cause that could have been a great just snow disposal site.
Among many other things.
On any other things?
Yep.
We voted to not do that.
Well, I mean, it was also, you know. This is a long shot, it's not a Hail Mary, but you've got, you know, discussion about rebuilding Main Street. In the next, say, 5 to 10 years.
10 years. I mean, realistically.
3.5. Put it that way.
Yeah,
Corey, you and I are long gonna be retired, you know that. I mean, we are gonna be down there watering the flowers before that is gone.
I do hear what you're saying.
Well, I mean, you've just made a point, which is for the ultimate cost of this piece of equipment. Over time.
Yeah.
You could actually look at buying a piece of property.
Yeah.
That serves the purpose.
Well, so if this is our 6 to 10 year. I mean, that's the expected lifespan of this piece of equipment is 6 to 10 years. That's how long we have to figure out a better option.
Yeah.
And
Close half the
that's,
back parking lots.
and
stack it.
honestly, that's how long it's gonna take to affect anything that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You know,
You can't stack Newcastle snow and Damascus.
Yeah, we
if
can,
we say
What?
please,
yes, we can,
Sure you can.
as
Good
long
luck.
as they're open to it.
Right, yeah.
Politically pulling that off. but-
Hey, look.
From the DEP's perspective, yes, we can.
I mean, we've been working together for years, you know, we've been.
Yep.
Working one site together for years, it's just that now you get a different property owner and, you know. I mean, I honestly, I would think that. You know, if there's any other solution to be, it would be to go try to massage that relationship and see what you could. Do both tax, I trust me, it's like the lady that we met on the lawn, I totally get it, I totally get it. I'm just, you know what I mean, that.
I will say that the town manager in Damascus went out for me today to try to see if there was. Yeah, one more chance. Didn't get anywhere.
okay, I was hoping it was just a. Perhaps the property owner didn't realize what he was doing to the two towns,
Prefers.
But,
he
okay.
Prefers talking to Andy, but he didn't respond to Andy, so.
okay,
It's what we call a non-starter. It's just not gonna happen.
I mean, long term, I believe he wants to develop that site. Maybe not in the next few years now that he's filled it with tenants and done the renovations, but his initial plan when he bought it was to expand it. Into that space, and he only stopped because he realized there was. Some sort of an agreement to push snow into there.
No,
But now
because
he's-
code wouldn't allow it.
code, yeah.
Well, code, right, but code wouldn't allow it because. Their code says that you can't build there, but
There's a limitation on units.
under the current code.
Yeah.
They're looking to change the code so that downtown can continue to
Yeah.
develop.
Alright.
Close proximity,
Oh, that's a different issue.
different story, different issue.
Let's stop talking about pie in the sky bull.
It's not gonna happen there anymore.
Let's talk about where the money's
We shouldn't
coming
try
from.
to get it there anymore.
No, we just need to figure out how to pay for this piece of equipment because this is our option.
Right,
I think we've talked around it. Everything we can, and this gets us 6 to 10 years to figure out what the better solution is. 5,
okay,
Actually, fun.
contractually 5.
I'll give you 6 months and we'll have a better idea as well.
let's see, yeah, see how it goes, so we all know. All right,
So if we might work with stuff to, sorry. Hager Enterprises, I'm gonna work with Hager Enterprises. to-
Hager,
Hager, you said that.
okay.
Hager Enterprises to come to you with. That option 3 with a 5-year, on a 5-year contract.
Well, what about 3? We talked about one with the extension of two, and then the other some contract.
I think the 5-year contract with a 2-year, just like as we do with the current one. The rest of it.
5-year with a 3-year
Yeah.
opt
The
out.
extension, yeah.
Are you open to that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll connect with you tomorrow or. Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, just because I step out for Wednesday, I gotta go back to the city, but I'll be around, I'll do.
Okay, I'll touch base.
All right, thank you, Seth.
Any other questions? You guys good on the other capital stuff?
Yeah, no, that's great.
So
Perfect.
what's our next discussion? How to pay for it?
Yeah.
Can you just stay for a second?
Of course. Yeah.
Because my first question is. Can we just not do some capital
Sure. Absolutely.
and take some money out of capital projects and. Use
Oh,
use to fund this?
My first option I would be would take the sidewalk out on River.
That's what I was gonna ask.
We keep taking the sidewalk out, the sidewalk is in
Well-
bad shape, but yes, I get it.
Push it 1 year.
So wait a minute, have we moved on to 5C, the special,
It's essentially what we're talking about.
I mean, let's
How do
vote,
you choose your warrant articles?
all right, so,
A way to do it.
That's one way to do it without raising taxes. It's without.
It's the
drawing
cleanest
down
way to do it.
Undesignated fund balance. It's already raised. Just means we're doing a little less work or. Because we have an emergency, we're switching focus.
Right.
It's-
Can you do any distance on the road or would that just be kind of, because it was what, 1,000 feet?
Yeah, it was right around 1,000 feet. I mean,
what, I don't know what the number was.
it's basically economy scale, you know what I mean? If
Yeah,
you're-
yeah, that's what I
Oh,
was.
right, you don't wanna
Just
do
cancel
20 feet.
completely.
Right, yeah, it's just hard, yeah.
What was the number on that project? You
I
remember?
remember,
14.
yeah, right,
214, so that covered it.
That gets the lion's share.
214, that covers all of it and then some.
yeah. It does. Yeah, you'll have a little bit, you'll actually come back to cap, you'll actually not spend on full capital, but.
We'll have, that'll help create a greater buffer and use some of the buffer you had still in that reserve account for Hopkins Hill Road.
Yep.
So that now you'll have more buffer and we'll just cover those expenses out here. But I still think we take it to special town meetings here.
We're moving a large sum out of capital reserve to some other completely different function, so we have to. Expect to get approval to do that in a special town
I
meeting.
would, I mean,
Yeah.
you can move up to 68,000 without having to do it, but I would.
We need
just
to move
use
more
this
time.
Yeah.
Is everybody comfortable with that? I'm very sad, but
I mean, I think it makes
But-
best sense to move that to next year, the sidewalk project, and I think. Yeah, I mean, again, we are not sitting on $2 million, we're bumping up against the ceiling of what we have allowable, so we just can't take.
You've already
money.
bumped into it.
What?
You've
We
already
bumped
bumped
it,
into it.
Yeah.
fair enough, my point is. You look at the bank, but that money is just not sitting there to be used for
Right.
whatever, personnel or whatever. So it's not like that, so yeah, we gotta make hard decisions, and I guess that hard decision is bumping something else down the line.
Right.
So,
I can, yeah.
Sidewalk is passable.
It's better than Mills Road sidewalk.
Exactly. Exactly.
so far. And that won't be repaired anytime soon. Is this whole,
something all this pessimism.
it's DOD, it's not gonna happen in the next 2 years.
Don't get anywhere with them.
All right, but wait, we have a whole lot more than just this though, right? So if we're on 5C. It's the setting the warrant for the. Special town meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to, pick Seth's brain while he was here about.
Yep.
Projects.
No, that was a good.
We can talk about the rest of it.
No,
We
I
can
mean,
go, I just.
I didn't, I didn't even think about capital roads and this whole process, but that's
We haven't started.
the other
yet.
place where we have a lot of money, so.
And to be very honest with you, if it doesn't take all of that and you wanted to still move the needle on a different. Area, and I have not discussed anything with Kevin, so he'll shoot me tomorrow, but. I'm just saying there's other things that we could do for lesser money to still benefit the roads in other fashions. to ultimately use those capital dollars, you know, if there's 214, use 115 of it down there, you got 100 grand, let's just say even half of it. 50 grand, we could go up on East Old County Road and mulch some of those sides of those trees and clean up some stuff, which would be a huge benefit to the road and a couple other areas. I mean, we've got some stuff that's overgrown, so we could do something with other portions of the money that were assigned for the sidewalk and still get you be on the plus side on your budget and still move the needle forward in other areas of the capital. So it's not a horrible thing, but we could potentially have a better or different impact in other areas.
Just a rearrangement.
Just to be right, exactly. I mean, there's plenty of other things to do that we could make and then we can budget appropriately for once we have a better understanding of the road sidewalk. Cause it is great. You guys do a good job on your sidewalks. I gotta be honest with you. There's not very few people that commit to a sidewalk program, and I think people use them. I mean, I think you get some pretty good
Yeah.
pedestrian access. But
A lot of people walking.
there are benefits that we can do to other things.
Last question before Seth leaves.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
Nope, go for it.
Timing wise about all these agreements and everything like that. When's our next meeting?
Are we meeting the day before special town meeting?
Yes,
Yeah, so we're meeting on the 9th and the 10th.
So that would be when you'd be having this new contract. Downtown snow removal contract.
I'd have it for you to review, yeah.
Would we, if we get snow? Before that's signed? What happens?
The only thing I need, the only thing on my, I mean, look.
Permit.
We worked through this before. I'm not gonna be
He needs the
here.
permit.
I just need a permit. That's the only thing I need.
Right.
I don't, I technically need a contract, as long as I know that one's covering, I'm covered under insurance. We've got an interoperative local agreement that covers me basically on that anyways. That I can work my way around, at least massage it for a couple of weeks or whatever it takes. I'm not worried about that one bit as far as the work goes. Permit side of things, I'm definitely worried about. Because I cannot put anything in there legally without having your liability covered and my liability covered. If we had a verbal assurance or an email, even if we didn't physically have the sign sealed and official, but we had a document from the DEP that said it's coming, it'll be processed, you know, something like that, fine, I'm good with that too. We can make it work, but in the meantime, Kevin and I kind of got a plan worked out that we're gonna have to stack that on the side or do something different if we get a substantial snow. Cause the other thing is if it doesn't pass in special town meeting. We're back into this predicament again, so we just gotta be prepared for that if that doesn't happen. But I need to have that permit is the key, really, we can work around everything else besides the permit, because we don't have any control over it.
I don't think. If the residents know that we're not raising their taxes to do this. I don't see a coalition coming out against not doing River Road sidewalk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
I think, you know, looking at the best on the table, this is gonna just, it'll go forward, you'll get the contract, everything will move forward.
Yeah.
So,
But timing wise, we have a meeting on the 9th.
Yeah.
Generally, we won't meet again until January. So we need to think about how we wanna, our next meeting would be December 23rd. I won't be here, I don't know about anybody else, so.
Yeah.
So we need to.
So we need to have a contract on December 9th that we can sign,
I hope so.
not review, but sign
Or pull an emergency meeting?
would be the other.
I am completely fine with the authorization from the manager to move forward if that helps in your timing whatsoever. Again, that permit, you think they hear from them next week?
I heard from them today.
So, yeah,
Did you hear what I said?
yeah, no, I just,
They wanted a certified mailing, and I'm like, I
No.
already said all this stuff.
no, I mean, but do you, in a work, do you think you'll hear from them next week?
Yeah,
Yeah, I would express, yeah.
I hope to hear from them tomorrow about how they feel about moving forward, even if they want me to send it again as a certified mail, I'll do it, but.
Right.
They should be counting the days since last Thursday. They have to wait 15 days.
Yeah.
Jeez. What, does the holiday push it out further?
Well, my argument was they got the letter sent up to them on the 14th, so technically it should be.
Yeah.
There
Should be
now.
okay to approve for next week.
Right, yeah,
My hope is by the 6th.
If
So the
not,
14th, and it's 15 days?
Is
I
it
said
15
14.
working days or 15
Just
calendar?
no, 14 days.
Or
Okay,
14 calendar days?
maybe a call to the representative from the members of the board might help a little bit.
No, I'll give, said staff person's boss a call if I
Yeah.
have to tomorrow.
Right, yeah. But that's really the other thing. Other than that, I wouldn't worry about it as a board. I'm not too over. We'll make it happen. That's not the big deal. Just gotta be able to have a place to put it.
For what it's worth, the extended forecast through the fourth is
170.
50.
thank you, Seth.
All right.
Then bite my nails for days on this. Thank you, Seth.
Thank you very much.
You too.
Yeah.
Have a good holiday.
Papa, thank you. You too. Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
So item, where are we?
Let's see.
5C. Special town meeting warrant. Let's see, so we've got some things we've got to put on it.
Yeah, I gave you a memo that walks through a lot of each of these items and everything, the timelines, the deadlines. I intend to flush that out a little bit more. That'll be part of the packet for the warrant for the public.
Right, but as far as we're concerned, items 1, 2, 3, 4, we've talked about, we understand, we've been over the material.
Yep.
No big deal.
I'm gonna share this.
Well, we did just go over Article 5
And we just,
earlier in this meeting.
and we just talked about, yep, Article 5.
We-
So now we have to add Article 6.
I would, and I'm also gonna request that we amend Article 5 to say shall the town. Allocate, drop the vote to,
Oh, yes, yep.
that's one amendment.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, yep,
I don't even have a copy of this signed today. Cause I knew that we might change things. So
Yeah. so we should probably stop by the office.
tomorrow to sign it. Or after the meeting, we can go and quickly sign a copy of this.
Okay, maybe,
So we do need to create an Article 6 for
um,
your signature.
which is to
Transfer funds from capital.
transfer 100 and, what is it,
15,000.
115.
And
Thousand.
change. I believe I have it in.
115,000.
It doesn't have to be the
Five-
exact amount.
500.
It doesn't have to be the exact amount probably, but
Oh, that's what it's up, but.
Yeah.
It's actually 497.
I'll
Round it up.
So I'll draft an Article 6 to withhold the, yeah, I mean, I'll put it in the memo as what all the explanation of what we're doing, why.
right, it's being transferred from capital roads to
It's no,
Capital
operations.
reserves.
operation, yeah.
And, the explanation will be that we're going to postpone the Riverwalk component in order to address this
Yeah.
unforeseen issue. And maybe look to spend them other money elsewhere at a later date. Or leave it there.
I don't even think you have to mention the rest of, that we haven't. We're just not gonna do that portion of the capital projects.
Well, I mean, you don't have to mention it because the town doesn't actually vote on the list of projects. They just vote on the dollar amount.
Right,
So we're just transferring money.
okay.
All right, then I guess we still need a motion to set the warrant as amended. For the December 10th special town meeting, which starts at 6:30 PM at the Great Salt Bay School. At 559 Main Street, Nebraska, and send notice to Elizabeth Ball, she.
A resident who has offered to help with this.
Okay,
She's on the school board.
okay. To inform the inhabitants of the town of Newcastle of said meeting. I just want to make sure Mike didn't get fired.
He didn't get fired.
this morning,
That's
what did I, not pass muster in Constable boot camp or something? I'm okay.
Okay, moved by Rufus,
I'll second.
seconded by Ben, right? Anyone have any other discussion points? All right, then all in favor? Passes 5-0.
Sorry, we have to sign this tomorrow.
Tonight,
Yeah, you can,
Print.
can you print this
well, I
out?
can't, I can print it, bring it back, or we can all join me at town hall, we have to sign it.
Okay.
Can't we get access
We
to
need
a
a-
printer here?
Yeah.
We have a printer here in this building.
Yes, but I can't I'm not connected to that printer.
Yeah.
By our.
We'll run down there and sign.
All right, I think that's something we should fix. It's like, man, we have a printer in this building, we can't, and we have to drive over to.
I don't have a key to his office items.
Okay. Let's see, so then new business, we had, we need to do the map for the solar panels.
Well. What?
What do you mean?
I'm sorry, not solar, not,
No, Thanksgiving week, 5A, it's Thanksgiving week,
sorry, yes, I'm looking at
6A.
my map. This is a note to myself, math for the solar panels, so I will mention that in a minute. Okay, so amendments to the new business, the Thanksgiving week hours, you wanted to close at noon on Wednesday?
I do. I've had several staff request the time off and I felt really bad about saying you have to stay and you can't, but now I'm to a point where I won't have any staff if I tell them they can all take the time off. So I thought I'd rather be in a position of thanks than to be in a position of
Grinch.
Scrooge. Yeah. So I'm, and of course, our policy says, you know, emergencies, safety issues, and staff shortages, and staff shortages to me is more like everyone's sick.
Right. Yeah.
So I would rather just ask and have the
Yeah.
board support, it's kind of that gray area, right? So
It's a safety issue.
It's a.
You might get stabbed if you make everyone come in.
No, I'd just rather give them the time, and have them forced to take it or be closed because everyone else, one person had to stay, so.
Well, we've done it in previous years too, I believe.
I think we've done it before, yeah. So
Just wanted your
it's fine.
blessing, I guess. Thanks.
All right, and then Ben, you wanted to talk about Chromebooks.
Yeah, sorry, just real quick, we talked about it for a couple of years, this idea of, at least this board and the planning board having, dedicated time devices. And so, the town planner has moved the planning board completely to, in the Google Workspace. So, our packets show up just like as a link in our email, and all the other planning board members were like, I'll tell you why it happened. We're moving towards a system where we can sign documents electronically online. And everyone but me had trouble doing it. Because you can't do it, you couldn't do it easily on your phone, and some people didn't have the right plugin on their computer, and it was a mess. We all got it done eventually, except one of us, and she just came in and signed it. So then we had a very short conversation where like, we talked about just getting Chromebooks, which, they're like $150. And just having one device for each person. They'd have their email, their Google Drive, they'd have access to all the planning board materials. And they wouldn't have to use their own device, and it would just work. And so we had budgeted this last budget. I don't know if it's in this
We
budget.
took out planning board budget this year. 0.
We zeroed it.
We had 3,000.
I don't think that you still have your,
But you're talking about 5 members, right?
yeah, $150
Plus
plus.
$7,000.
This has just come from the computer reserve account.
Yeah.
Well, that was my question.
Yeah.
And whether or not we could just make it happen because it's Black Friday week.
So I'll get some deals on Friday.
No, you can do it now.
Oh, it's all week?
It's all week.
Then we'll order some Chromebooks for the planning board.
Okay. That would be
You
very
can show up
much.
with a laptop, you're okay with using a laptop and we can continue in the way we work here this way?
I prefer to keep my
I'm
computer.
fine. Yeah, I'm just wondering if you should get an extra Chromebook in anticipation. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Or
Okay.
two.
That might be what draws them in.
Yeah.
Hey,
You get to use it.
Anybody?
Just
Anybody
have to-
biting?
we just need to make sure we, unlike in the past, I think, keep track of these things better.
Well, I mean,
What's
I
that
think
even-
maybe that's your, if you serve for a certain period of time, you just get to keep it. Because
It's $150.
It's not worth it when you're done.
it becomes obsolete.
Yeah, it does.
Literally not worth anything. 3 years from now.
No, it's not. Okay, we don't need to vote on that or anything, so.
All right.
No, just knowing I have, I mean.
Yeah.
It's this thing like, generally, the whole, oh no, there's no objection, and I'm.
We're talking about MacBook Pros and
Right.
talking about
Yeah,
15,000 bucks, that'd be a
screen,
different
Yes.
story.
My predecessor purchased this
Right.
thing right here,
Nice.
it came in handy.
The second part of that, and I just sort of put this together, would be that we'd have to add accounts to the Google Workspace.
Yes, and that does cost about $7.50 a month.
Everybody has to have their own.
But I mean, if that's the system you're using, I mean, it's just part of operation.
The idea is it's set up with your town Google account.
It's less than $100.
You literally open it. And it's got everything you need, just like right there. You don't have to mess with configuring an email account. You don't have to mess with figuring out the Google Drive or any of the plugins or any of the.
And honestly, like the other issues, it helps address IT needs and it addresses full request issues. So
Absolutely.
when I need data, when I get a full request for information from planning board members, I really don't want them digging through their personal emails related to this stuff. So I'd rather be in a position where I actually can get to it myself without herding cats, chasing.
Yep.
Whatever term one use.
Okay.
I don't object to using some funds to take care of that this year and I'll figure out how to make it work.
Even the Google stuff, it's less than $100 a person a year.
Yeah.
I'll budget for it for next year.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll figure out a way to make it happen this year.
The planning board budget back in.
Sorry, guys. I mean, that's part of the reason I asked you guys to have $50,000.
In contingency.
Contingency to fix these things that I broke.
Yeah, well, we
Yeah.
took it out, because it wasn't used for a number of years.
Right. Well, there were several places in the budget you may see this year.
Yeah.
Where Casey may come to you and say, we dug too deep. You know, as the
Yeah.
proposal that Kevin gave was a little too deep in this account line. I wanted you to have that 50,000 to use to fix those holes. So
Yep.
this is one of those examples of where we'll use some contingency to fix the hole for those accounts for the rest of the year.
Yeah. I'm backing up a little bit, but I did have my note here on map for the solar panels. Just, are we gonna get any money from FEMA for Lynch Road this budget year? You think?
I don't think we'll be able to start the project. We've gotten money back from Lynch Road.
For the little stuff that we
Yeah,
started
we've
with,
gotten about $160,000 back,
okay,
which is now also added to our
the
reserve.
contingent
No, not contingency, to our storm
reserve, right, okay,
which is help backfill the final plan design for the bridge.
okay,
So we're good. We still have about $100,000 in that account, in that reserve account. What I'm waiting on is FEMA Environmental and Historic Preservation to give the final go-ahead. That money would then be freed up and given to the state. The state, then we go to the state and say, we don't want to do a mitigation project, we want to do a bridge.
it's still hung up in
We're
that,
still hung up
Okay.
there. Which means I think that the timeline for getting the project bid has been delayed another year. But the money, we're so close to knowing that that's gonna be federally supported.
okay.
I'm just,
That just crossed my mind when I was looking at all your math for the stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, then, let's see. Going to the fiscal warrant, do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 11th AP warrant for $266,310.74.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Made by Tor, seconded by Ben. Anybody have any question on this one? I looked through it line by line. I think that just for people's knowledge, the big one on this one is the school payment of $176, almost $177,000. Then all in favor? Right, passes 5-0. Kevin,
we talked already about capital roads. I think the other two items that remain, one is Hassan Ave, that's a focus this winter. Because there's no asphalt, it's more just plain the dirt culverts, and putting down stone and backing it down, and so I guess, they'll be working on that this winter, probably when time allows. There is a ton of snow on the ground. And then Island Road, the surface paving will occur in late spring or early summer. So right now, I think there's some work being done on like gravel roads and preparing for weather. And obviously, Hopkins Hill Road is getting done, as I've mentioned, next week. So the appraisal for the foreclosed parcel lot map 13 lot 11. It came in, it's included in this packet, it's about 50 pages long.
Yeah.
The important number that you probably all care about is that the value came in at $80,000 for that. Big reason why it was a little bit discounted is the narrow strip that is on Mills Road that goes back to that lot. It really isn't conducive for commercial because how narrow that is. And the other challenge is because there's a fire hydrant directly in one spot. So if that's going to be used as a driveway at some point, that fire hydrant would have to move to accommodate that. So that's why the value came in at 80,000. Staff are working to prepare a list of the deductions that we would look to recover from this before a check was cut to the former owner.
Okay.
The former owner and his attorney have been made aware. They're monitoring it and we'll probably have a conversation with them shortly. Fish ladder agreement, the Damascotta Mills Fish Ladder Restoration Organization is in the process of creating their own 501c3. We've drafted an interlocal agreement that we'd like to bring to the board for your authorization for me to sign. Noblesboro was at the meeting. Jim Brinkler, who serves as our fish agent, was also at that meeting. I do think that there's a need for a walkthrough of the site. There's a lot of concerns about the capital needs of not necessarily the fish ladder itself, but the walkway and the infrastructure that does the fish harvesting needs some money, needs repairs. Now, Noblesboro and the Damascotta Mills Fish Ladder Restoration Organization have sizable amounts of money to put towards these improvements, but we want to have a conversation so that everyone's aware before we start getting authorization to spend those resources. So maybe a sidewalk, halfway decent 70-degree sunny day in December.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I provided another letter of support to the University of Maine Darlings Marine Center. I think it does achieve some of the goals we are looking at as part of our community climate resiliency partnership initiative or the resolution we passed back in June. So I continue to work with Dr. Leslie, who was here a few weeks ago, talk about some of the things she's interested in helping us achieve. So again, another letter, maybe some time commitment, use of this space. That's what she's looking for from staff. So that's part of what that agreement included. And then last meeting, I talked a little bit about, I'm going to jump. Assistance to firefighters grant application. Casey and I have talked a bit about trying to get a sizable grant, part of $170,000 to replace the self-contained breathing apparatus, scuba, SCBA. I don't know how you scuba.
SCBA.
Oh,
SCBA.
you sound
Not
like you're going
scuba.
diving.
Yeah, it does sound like you're diving, so I'm trying not to say that. Did it anyway. So we're working to do that. That's due December 20th. And as I mentioned before, the climate action things due December 17th.
Mhm.
I do have Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission as our service provider helping us write that grant. So I'm not doing all that work.
Good.
And I do have Casey on the hook to help me finish this other one. So in the last meeting, I talked about the Maine Connectivity Authority Reach Me grant, who we partnered with Tidewater to implement. There was a question about, so what's the timeline for people to actually start to see stuff and where are the locations? So 21 miles of new fiber build out is nearly complete. That's the fiber that's placed on the poles. And then the splicing should be completed within the next 3 weeks. And they expect to start seeing those installs within the next 2 weeks. Start to see those installs in the next 2 weeks. So the following roads, Holston Lane, Hassan Avenue off of 215, Evergreen Road, Pinewood Farm, Joneswood Road from Oxbow to Bunker Hill, and then the Milliken Island neighborhood is also getting theirs. Some more information in here, but they will be having an info session here in January, on January 8th. They'll be doing a couple of presentations throughout the 3 to 6 hours, from 3 to 6.
3 to 6.
3 to 6 PM, 3 hours window. There'll be food, so I will obviously be here to
Excellent.
eat some of that. That's mostly what I have. Obviously, we're still looking to pull some core zoning code additional amendments. I know planning board talked about it at their last meeting. What we're looking to do, but I hope to do another meeting or another special town meeting in March. We haven't even finished talking about the one in December, but I'm already thinking about the one in March. We'll have a couple items to address them.
Okay,
That's it.
that's a lot.
I know. There's more, but as far as I could get without saying, I'll never get this to you.
All right. Nothing else, anybody? All right, then, without objection, we will adjourn the meeting at, what are we looking at, 8:41? Objection.